Today we're going to talk about the Game Boy. I love this thing, man. The Game Boy. This brings me back. I've got some weird Game Boy accessories to show you. I'm glad you're here for this one. Hope you come back every day because I do a video at 2 o'clock every single day. Today we're talking about this. So I love the original Game Boy. I do have one of these Game Boy Colors, but there's something about this big clumsy piece of plastic. So when you had this in the old days, this screen, it's remarkably bad today, but you were just happy that it existed. But you couldn't use it in the dark, you couldn't use it in the sun, you had to have like the perfect lighting for this weird screen, and everything was like this greenish color. So the thing ran on AA batteries, 4 of them. You didn't get a lot for that. They did have a way that you could plug it in, so if you were at home and wanted to play it, which sounds today like something, oh, why would anybody want to do that? But when we were kids, most houses had one TV. So like if you were little brother, or if dad was watching the big game, you had to, you'd whip this thing out and just start whip it out and play with your Game Boy. All right, so it's got, whatever, the seal of Nintendo, it's got its number on there. The games would go in here. We'll be looking at a bunch of the games. This one's missing it was a little, this color pink button that would turn it off and on. So this one's just kind of for display only, I guess, unless I fix it. You've got your volume control. You did have this kind of port thing, which had some kind of, it says external connector. I know they had a printer and some other devices. I never used this. I think there was a way to link 2 of them together. I don't really remember. And then you have your headphone jack. No, your power outlet. Your headphone jack's down here. So the headphone jack was down here, which made sense because when you plugged in your headphones, they went to your ears and the cord just hung down here and you could play around it. Whereas if the cord came up here, it would have to either drape over your arm or, run across the screen. It's terrible. And the iPhone did not learn from the Game Boy because, it was over a decade later they put out your first iPhone. And in the early iPhones, you plugged your phone in here to charge, but here to listen to things. And then later they fixed that. They put this down here with this lightning, and then eventually they made everything, all the sound come out of here and, whatever. But anyway, a little side note about the great Game Boy. All right, we're gonna take a look now at the big Game Boy, this thing. So this is like a travel case. And this model Game Boy 80, and look at how like it's molded to look like the game. Here's the front of a game. You see it would go in here, and that's like, it's molded to look like the game. The battery pack, they molded the battery pack. I think that's great. So yeah, this was it's a carrying case. I found this at a garage sale, and I think the guy wanted $5 for it, and I was like, sold and sold. All right, so here it is, and this is most of my Game Boy games. So I'm gonna show you a couple of them because I got some accessories, but not the kind of accessories that plug into it. Things that are maybe not accessories. Accessory is the way a lady says her purse is her accessory. I don't know. I got stuff. I'll show you stuff in a little bit. Oh, there's the classic. Got this for $6 somewhere. Some games did not translate well to the Game Boy, and this certainly was one. By the way, before GameStop stopped selling these, games, this was only $2.99. They used to have good deals on these because nobody wanted them. Look at this Inspector Gadget. Come on, come on. A lot of people are into old games now. Retro gaming is like a thing. I have always been into old games. So like when the Nintendo came out, I was still playing my Atari, and and I never stopped playing the Atari or any game system after it. So like it didn't matter in my life, new system came out, I might play that one, but I'd also still always play the old ones. I never, like, to me it wasn't like, oh, the technology is advanced, but I still liked those games. I still thought they were fun. So I actually collected these things forever. And I used to get them much cheaper than they are today. There's Home Alone 2. These were, I think, Blockbuster maybe. These were protective cases. Maybe they were from GameStop because this I bought there, but I like these protective cases. By the way, the case actually has spots for the protective cases. Monsters Incorporated, I interviewed those guys recently. Donald Duck going quackers. Look at this movie tie-in. 102 Dalmatians. Going through my collection, I found one Mario game, but I found not one, but two different Olsen twin games. My goodness. After the Game Boy, you had the Game Boy Color. Where's the on-off switch on this? Yeah, this one's got some juice. Look at that. One thing that I thought was neat was it could play any of the games in color. So even if the game wasn't produced in color, it would figure out what colors to put. And since there were so few colors, it kind of always worked. You know, I mean, the sprites were so simple. Everything about it made it easy. But this is like a Pokemon version of it. So I like the button colors and everything. But yeah, this is just a Game Boy Color I picked up at some point in time, and glad I have it. All right, the next one, the Game Boy Advance. I think I have like 2 or 3 of these, but so this one had like a wider screen, kind of cool layout. You put the game in here, so it didn't feel nearly as clunky as the other ones. Folded up, you know, kind of not too bad sitting in your pocket. I do like this thing. I think that's pretty cool. And then there's this thing. So this you got for your Super Nintendo, and you could plug any game into this Super Game Boy. And you could plug any game into the Super Game Boy, and there you have it. You could play this in your Super Nintendo. So I use this a lot. I have a Super Nintendo set up at the bar. Maybe one night I'll put it on and we'll play some Super Nintendo on there, but this is pretty neat. I like the Game Boy travel case. So you'd wear this, you put your Game Boy in it, you put this around. Oh, I got my Game Boy right here. It's ready to go. And let's see, got a zipper compartment in the back. It's nice lined. I'll show you actually the inside. I'll show you what the lining looks like. It's lined with like this padding on each side. It has some headphones in here, but these aren't that old. So there you go. Look at that. Pretty cool. I actually know why these are here. These were airline headphones back, I don't know how long ago this was, but the airline used to give you these free headphones if you were traveling. And sometimes they charge like $1 for them or whatever. But there was a short period of time where I would bring this like whenever I flew places, and I put like all my toiletries or whatever in it. Because, you know, it's awesome. But then one day I was like, you know what, I'm gonna wear it out doing that. So I'll just put it in the corner and never touch it. That's a much better use of my Game Boy bag. All right, the final category is drinking vessels. I got 2 drinking vessels to show you. I'm gonna start off with this one. So I picked this up a long time ago, the Game Booze. This is so like if you're walking around, you know, Disney World, you want to sneak some booze, they'd be like, oh, that guy's just a time traveler playing his old video game. But look at that, Game Booze. And it's got the like drink from Zelda, and then on the back it says this, which is probably the company that made it, I'm thinking. And then it looks like a nice little battery pack there. It looks like it's got all the controls. It's just a wrap. It's just a wrap around this, but I think it's great. I don't know if I've ever used this. Let me see. I miss whatever was in there. It smelled pretty good. It smells like a Game Boy all-nighter. But there you go, the Game Booze. Finally, I got this one. This I just recently got for Christmas, and I wanted to bring this and show you. So it's the Game Boy coffee mug, but this is a heat-changing mug. I like the packaging, by the way, that they did. You know, it's got the look of like the old Game Boy. Like if you looked at that, you'd think for a second that was the box for a cartridge. But I like this. The thing I don't like is these heat change mugs. So here's the mug. Same on the reverse. You drink out of it like this. It's not a mustache cup, so if you got a big old thick mustache, you're gonna have trouble with this. But this is your Game Boy. Now this thing, let me show you the box. This thing has the Nintendo seal of approval, so this is official. Quality's not super great, I don't think. Like if you look, you can kind of see the imperfections there, see, in this. So these are wrapped, right? So they're just wrapped in plastic. Now it's a special type of plastic that when it gets hot, it'll change, and then when it cools off, it'll change again. It shows on the box what happens. So it goes from black to lighting up with the green color and everything. So you do get that effect, which is cool. And I'm totally for bringing this upstairs, putting that in there and looking at it. But the problem with keeping this in your cabinet is it's not dishwasher safe. I had a Mr. Rogers one of these where when you put in your coffee, it changed the color of his sweater. And first time I went through the dishwasher, it came out and that thing was just like off, like it was like those pause Easter egg things that you put the Easter egg in and then you put it in the boiling water and you take it out and now it's got this sealed wrap on it. It was like that had come off. And so you can't forget and put this through the dishwasher. So I keep these things in the box. I got one, that Mr. Rogers one, somebody else gave it to me and I was like, great, because I threw the last one away because it was just a blue cup. So I'm going to keep this in the box. It'll be over here in the corner, but this was a nice Christmas present. And it's a pretty good drinking vessel. Glug, glug, glug. Well, right now you're going to have to choose between this box and this box. Could be either box. I'm in both of them. Be fun to watch. Why don't you pick this one? Or maybe this one. Either way, I'm there. I'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Pointless Nostalgia. Pour some out.